This is the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast, episode 551.
I program my own computer.
We have a server crash, 404 error, page not found, links aren't working, system is crashing, system is crashing, system is crashing.
Your old HTML website, barely alive. We have the technology. We have WordPress. A new website, better than it was before. Better, stronger, faster. Hello, everybody. This is Adam Silver, the host of the Kitchen Sink WP podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right, upcoming events. We have two next week. First and foremost, the big one here in the U.S., WordCamp US. It's in Portland, Oregon, September 17th through 20th. And yeah, it's going to be great. It'll be large. And sadly, the odds of me being there are not great because I'm going to be out of the country that week, apparently. So not apparently, I'm just going on a trip. So maybe, unless I get back in time, but it really doesn't look like I'm going to be, just looking at the calendar right now. So enjoy it. It'll be the first WordCamp US that I actually miss since WordCamp US was started. So there's kind of a sadness there, but it is what it is. All right. Also WordCamp Pontevedra sobre emprendimiento. I believe I said that right. It's in Spain, September 20th through 22nd. So that's pretty cool. Check that out if you are in that part of the world as well. All right, moving on. Segment one in the news. Two things to talk about here. Yeah, two things. The WordPress community team is closing inactive Meetup groups by September 16th. So yeah, by the time this episode drops, if I'm not mistaken, if you're in a group, you may have already gotten an email or something via Slack indicating that if you haven't had much activity in your WordPress Meetup group, you needed to reply that keep it open or remove yourself from it. I actually did get that message and for the Raleigh group, but we are keeping it open and kind of trying to see if I can't get that rebooted to some capacity. So there is that. Keep an eye out for that. All right. Also in the news, the WordPress 6.7 roadmap has been unveiled. That was published by Anne McCarthy. The release for that version of WordPress is looking at November 12th. And this will be the final major update of the year. If you want to see more about that or read about it, I have a link in the show notes. So yeah, that is it in the news. Okay, yeah, moving on. Segment 2, meat potatoes. This week's episode is a Q&A episode. It's been 8 weeks. Kind of crazy. Time flies. So we have a couple questions here. First one is an audio message sent in by Joe Simpson. Here, take a listen to his question, and I'll get an answer for you after that.
Hi, Adam. This is Joe Simpson in Los Angeles. I hope all is going well with you. I had a question. I've been with my current agency for quite a long time. And I'm thinking about doing something new, but I have some questions or caveats that have always held me up in terms of branching out and doing my own thing. I've been in a comfortable corporate environment for over 30 years. And before I started, I did, when I first came to California, I was doing freelance work and doing contracting work, and it was great, but I didn't have a lot of financial or business background when I was in art school. And I had some adversity where I had a big tax bill at the beginning, which sort of made me look for something more stable, a little less quote unquote risky, but it was really that I wasn't educated. So now as I begin to consider doing something similar on the back end of my career, how do you start up an agency? I guess for me, the angle that I would love to get into or hear about is like, what do you do financially? How do you find a great accountant or a great attorney? And it seems like, I try to ask folks these questions as I get to know them in the WordPress space. And it's a little different because these people are sharing personal or business information. So they're usually very guarded with that information. And, or as an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, you're used to doing your taxes yourself and this and that. But I definitely don't want to do it that way. I want to at least get a good basis or a good start. So how do you find a great attorney? How do you find a great CPA? Who was your mentor in those areas? Who was your mentor in terms of business? That would be great if I can get that perspective.
Well, thanks for sending that in, Joe. And for those who didn't know, I had to edit that. There was 2 segments there that he sent in through the speak pipe, so it kind of cut him off. But nonetheless, Joe, appreciate the question. And for those who don't know, Joe was interviewed on the podcast and also gave an update not too long ago about where are they now. I'll link to those in the show notes as well. But in answer to your questions, Joe, congratulations on looking in to do something different. Hopefully it'll be better this time versus having a huge tax bill at the end of the year. And that is a big concern. It really is. And as far as sharing and transparency, I try to do what I can. More often than not, I will share numbers on a one-on-one basis without question. It's just a number. And that's all it is. It doesn't define who you are. And when some people, I get it though, some people do believe or they're guarded about their numbers and their financials. I understand that. It's a choice. Anyway, so in answer to your question, great attorney. Well, lucky for me, my father is a great attorney. He's been very helpful over the years. That being said, I have had a few legal issues over the years. When I moved from California to Colorado, I had something come up. My father did some of the prep work for me, but then I needed someone in Colorado to actually draft and deal with the actual issue at hand because he was in the state of Colorado. My father's not. He's not licensed by the state bar of Colorado, only in California. So for that, I was actually friends with someone I met both at the Chamber of Commerce at the time, and he was also a member of the local Oddfellows fraternity that I was a part of as well. So I had that connection, but it was just, it took some time to know who he was. He's a great attorney, and he took the case for me. Yes, I had to pay him, and it wasn't inexpensive in a sense, but it was worth having that in place. Having a good attorney is great. So Chamber of Commerce potentially is a starting spot. CPA, again, referrals work well. Local Chamber of Commerce, go to events. In my case, when I had my company in California, actually, and in Colorado, by chance, my CPA was the one my parents used for years and years and years. Richard is his name, fantastic guy, but I no longer use him only because my company has shifted and changed, and I think he had some health issues as well, but I don't own a home anymore, so it's a lot easier for me to manage that, and I don't have an office or a building outside of the house. But again, check your local Chamber of Commerce, go to events, network, get to know people, see their methodology, if they understand what you do for a living. If they're a younger CPA, or if they understand technology or agency life, that kind of thing, or multiple revenue streams, a little easier to deal with as well. As far as the question regarding mentoring, I believe in 2 kinds of mentoring. There are a kind that don't know who you are. They probably never will know who you are. Those are people who write books and share things online, the Carnegies of the world, the Gates, the Cubans, Gladwell, Winfrey, Godin, Drucker, Guy Kawasaki, etc. Listening to them speak, write books, their audio podcasts about mindset and business is amazing. They don't need to know you exist, but you can gather and garner so much information from them from afar, if you will. And I read a lot. And so I think that is one way to look at it, one opportunity. The other one would be, again, local. Churches, temples, business groups, Kiwanis, Rotary. And it doesn't have to be local, because perhaps someone you met at a conference might be a good mentor for you. Reach out, make that connection. Business coaches these days can be done remotely, masterminds as well. And to be honest, I wouldn't be here right now in this space recording this content if it wasn't for all those elements coming together. Starting with the mastermind, where I was focusing on the podcast and growing KitchensinkWP. That was 10.5 years ago. I went to a conference, New Media Expo. My name was put into a name of 10 other people that said, hey, this would be a great mastermind. 5 of us got together, and here we are, bouncing ideas off each other. Years later, forming a business mastermind to get Concierge WP off the ground and learning about Profit First and that methodology. So those are the ways I would look at finding a mentor, because you have options there. You have a network already. I know Joe pretty well. A lot of people know who Joe is. I don't see it being difficult whatsoever. You have to take the gamble and the risk to put yourself out there, but it is doable. So I believe that answers the primary 2 questions, the attorney and the CPA, and the mentor, actually 3 questions, and mentoring. And if anyone has any more questions like that, or wants information or insights on how I've set things up, good, bad, and ugly, again, reach out. I have no problem sharing, and it doesn't cost anything. I'm just friendly. We want to help. Okay. Moving on to the second question. This one's sent in by Steven. How do you recover your WordPress website login URL if it has been changed via a security plugin for logging into the site? Interesting. Oh, recover. I see. Okay. So if somehow someone's added, I think this is what this means, some obscure, I guess security by obscurity is what they call it, right? So Pretty simple answer. If I'm not mistaken, I would file manage my way in, either SFTP, SSH in, and deactivate the plugin. To deactivate the plugin in question, like a WordFence or what was the other one? Forgot. There's a couple of them out there that kind of just change the URL from wp-admin to anything else, right? So you can just go into the plugins directory, change the name or add a Z at the end of it, or add -temp, and that deactivates it. And that puts it back to the default wp-admin login page. So there you go. If that's what you meant, Stephen, if it's not what you meant, let me know for the next, for 8 weeks from now. Okay. And the last question here is sent in by Levi. Is it better to use the native Gutenberg or a builder like Elementor? Ooh, well, sadly, I need to go with the standard WP answer here. In quotes, it depends. Because from my personal experience only here, if you want full control of each page, I'd still go with the page builder. Elementor could work, sure, although we're more familiar with Beaver Builder and all of its elements. But this isn't to say that the native Gutenberg editor can't do the layouts that you want. I've toyed with it a little bit, but not too deep just yet. As I've mentioned over the past few years, we are just faster at the agency in the stack that we know, which includes Beaver Builder, not the Gutenberg editor. Okay. Now, if you're coming in totally new, perhaps the new editor would be a solid place to start. I recommend it, honestly. Why not? Because it is the core functionality. It's WordPress core. It's in there. And knowing the ins and outs of it and the settings where things are would probably be a great asset moving forward. And then, only then, adding the layer on top if you wanted to use a page builder as well, because you can do both. You really can. So, of course, it depends. It depends where you are, what you need to do, what the goals are. Okay. So I hope that helps your question, Levi, and thanks for sending that in. Blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to leave that in there. Okay. Anyway, all right, moving on. Segment 3, tip and tool of the week. This week's tip, it's a tool, actually. It's, I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Bigin, Bigin, Bigin.com. It's a CRM. It's a free level starting out. Looks like a very nice option. I'm not currently using it, but I'm looking at it seriously and moving away from my current CRM, which I've mentioned in the past, which is Pipedrive, which I've liked over the years. I'm coming up for renewal, and I'm trying to cut some operating costs, things and tools I might not be using fully, that I don't need all the bells and whistles anymore. So it's over at bigin.com. I have no connection to them at the moment, but from what I can see, it looks pretty cool, and I believe it might save me some money. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. So, all right. Let me wrap it up here. Actually, before I wrap it up, I do want to say thank you to all of those who reached out to me after episode 549, where I did share insights on the agency's 8 years of life and all, and celebrating that and the money and whatnot, like I just mentioned earlier with Joe. So, yeah, I appreciate the reach outs, and moving forward, let's see how things go. If you have any questions, go ahead and send it in via email, adam@kitchensinkwp.com, or use the SpeakPipe function like Joe did. If you want to support the show, you can become a Patreon. There's a link in the show notes as well on the website. You can buy me a coffee. Oh, and by the way, someone did buy me a coffee. It's 5 coffees, by the way. So that was really cool just last week. So thanks for that. If you want to sponsor the show, there's a form on the website. Fill that out. Get back to you. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Now go out and do some awesome things with WordPress. All right. Bye-bye.